The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Welcome to the O Show. I'm Laura Babcock, joined again this week with Loren Lieberman. We'll say hi to Loren in just a second, but first, here's what's coming up on the show. We're going to talk about casino. It is the big topic still in town this week, and Loren might have some intel on that for us. I look forward to hearing. Plus, LRT have plans stalled. The mayor did an interview today. We're going to talk about what he had to say, and we're going to discuss Pan Am. Why, you ask? Because a councillor brought it up again. Plus, we're going to talk about the airport lands. A new study was done, and the results are pretty strong. We're going to break those down for you, plus some updates. But first, let's say hi to Loren. Loren, how you doing?
I'm all right. How about you?
Good. How was the convention in Vegas?
You know, it's work, work, work. That's what my life is about.
I saw the Gene Simmons pic on your Facebook page. You look like you're working.
We had some business to attend to.
And you had a good holiday with your family? Good Thanksgiving?
Sure.
Okay. I asked him not to have too much turkey because I didn't want him to be tryptophan-induced today.
No,
but
I did not.
He said he could not promise, so we'll see. Okay. Well, welcome back. Dave Shuttleworth filled in for you last week.
It was okay without me, I trust?
You know, he did a great job, but, you know, you're Loren Lieberman.
Thank you.
Nothing competes with Loren Lieberman.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's get started with a quick update. It's a story we've talked about a few times here in the program, and that's, of course, Linwood Charlton and the request to City Hall to be able to move to a facility on Augusta Street for the young women in the group home. They suffer with mental illness, and Council has been citing a radial separation bylaw as a reason why they can't move. Well, the Ontario Human Rights Commission let us all know this past week that they approached Council to talk to them about their position because they believe it's in violation of the human rights of the residents of Linwood Charlton. Council didn't take the meeting, and so the Human Rights Commission is going to be going to the OMB with Charlton House to fight the city on this. So, as you know, when this came up, a lot of people out there in social media land wanted to do something to support the girls. And so this shirt has been put together for it. It's called the SOS Stomp Out Stigma campaign. It's about stigma around mental illness, but it's also directly to support the girls of Charlton House, and it says that on the back. So if you want to get one of those, it's a not-for-profit initiative. You can go to Graham Crawford's History and Heritage on James North starting this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He'll be selling them for $10 if you want to wear those. Okay, so that's the update on that, and we'll see what happens at the OMB pretrial hearing on October 16th in that issue. So let's get into something that was a huge issue 2 summers ago, so much so that it divided the city unlike anything I'd seen maybe since amalgamation. And that was the issue of Pan Am and where the stadium should go. Everyone had an opinion on it. People were pretty upset right across the country about this. So the question is, why are we talking about that again? Wasn't it put to bed months ago with Council's decision to go to Ivor Wynne? Well, not really. Let's find out what's the latest is. Just the facts on this, Loren.
Yeah, I'm even remiss to even rehash this up, but here we go anyways. Pan Am pain. Councillor Ferguson revealed regrets about his vote for the Ivor Wynne location and attempts to meet with Ticats to discuss West Harbour option. Several councillors have been expressing concerns about secrecy by TO 2015 and a lack of control over city's investment in the stadium.
Right, so, you know, there's 2 issues here that we want to discuss on the program, Loren. One is, why did Councillor Ferguson bring this up? And we'll get to that. But also the fact that Councillor Morelli walked out of a committee meeting on this at one point recently. They don't feel as though all the money that the city's putting in, they have any kind of control. It's quite secret. Plans are going to be revealed to Council with the rest of the public, and they're not very happy about it. So when I saw an article that came out from Twitter from the editor of the Toronto Sun, Laurie Goldstein, and it said, you know, that Toronto 2015 could be a win-win, I wrote back to him on Twitter and said, even for Hamilton. And here's his response to me. And this is the editor of the Toronto Sun. He said, understood. Toronto 2015 could have done a better job re-Ivor Wynne. Understand there's community anger. So I include that because I thought it was interesting that the editor of a Toronto newspaper was aware of the frustration still simmering in the community. So let's talk about that frustration. Why do you think, Loren, that Councillor Ferguson would tell everybody that he has regrets, also reveal that he tried to get meetings with the Ticats to see if they could switch the location back to West Harbour. And I think he even included some faint hope that there might still be a way of stopping the move to Ivor Wynne.
Until there's a shovel in the ground, it's not too late, something along those lines. Councillor Ferguson is probably the councillor with, or at least the upper echelon of the absolute least amount of histrionics as far as council members go, that he does not just jump up and down and scream about something. So my assertion would be Councillor Ferguson did this because it upset him very, very much so. If we can look at the two camps that this city was divided in, and whether or not it was West Harbour, East Mountain, I think it was West Harbour or somewhere that wasn't necessarily downtown-ish and more suburban. I don't know that I can even recall a specific East Mountain location. But the compromise to it all was a lose-lose. That if the Ticats don't get what they want, then the city can't get what it wants, and Ivor Wynne is good for nobody except an infusion of cash into Bernie Morelli's ward, which may or may not have any tangible good. Is it too late? I don't know, but you'd have to think so. You'd have to hope it's too late for a couple of reasons. One, who wants to have this debate again? And two, we've decided we're so far down the road, you're telling me if it's not too late, then I'm just frightened by the whole process.
So a couple of things on this. One is that the Ticats, of course, benefit out of this. They get a spanking brand new stadium. You know, they essentially said that they would take their ball and run, and the city caved, as many people look at it going back. And I sense that Councillor Ferguson suggested that the numbers they were given weren't completely truthful. So where were you, what was your position on this? What location were you supporting back in the day, Loren?
Back in the day, I support that a for-profit sports franchise has the right to go wherever it wants when it's building its own stadium.
Right, but this wasn't just building its own stadium, right?
No, but that was my position. The Ticats don't get a seat at the table, especially as a virtually non-paying
Sure, but they
tenant.
certainly did, as we know, and it turned into a big public war, and I was supportive of the West Harbour position. So again, this ripped our community apart.
It sure did.
Nationally, we were embarrassed by it.
Got us a new mayor.
Yeah, that's right. Some say that Fred Eisenberger, that was the hill that he died on, and we've talked to him on the Laircast subsequently, and he acknowledges that that was a pretty rough fight and probably part of why he didn't win. So for Councillor Ferguson, who I agree with you is one of the serious, very serious members of council, a businessman first and foremost, for him to come out and say, you know, I tried to get these meetings, I couldn't get them, but, you know, I regret it. I don't know that it's helpful unless he's coming to the table with a real plan to put West Harbour back on the table. If all he's doing, and this is how it looks, is maybe getting some political cover on the issue in case the reveal goes badly, it becomes a decision the city regrets. He's now come out and said, no, wait a second, if I could go back, I would have changed it. Now, I don't know if he's planning on running for mayor. This is how my cynical mind works. But possibly this was a way of giving him some political cover. I hope not, because I think he's a pretty serious guy. But I'd like to see a plan of action to back up what he's saying, because you can't just throw hope out there to the community.
Right.
I mean, even in the green room before we started the show, people on the crew here were saying, well, there is still hope. The contract's not been signed. There is still hope. So why get us all whipped up again if we are stuck with the location of Ivor Wynne?
It's what we like, which is why we keep talking about NHL and things that just tease us and upset us time and time again.
But he's a city councillor and he's a smart man. Why would he do that?
Out of frustration. I don't think that, I think that Lloyd is a very bright, calculating man, but I don't think he's a calculating politician. I don't think this is part of a bigger move.
Okay, well, I hope not. That's my conspiracy theory on it.
I don't know.
But on the other part of this story, which is Councillor Morelli, other members of the committee saying, you know what, we don't have enough information on this. This is a major investment, millions of dollars that the city is putting into this legacy project.
Right.
We don't have any say on what it's going to look like. We're being cut out of the loop. Do they have an argument there, Loren?
No, because that was the deal they signed. That's not a surprise. And if you didn't like it, then you shouldn't have agreed to it.
And how could 2015 really function if all of its information about all of these things was being brought out publicly at the local level? You know, Hamilton Council has a reputation for leaks, as probably other councils do as well. How could they possibly move forward on this short timeline if they were sharing all those details?
I think this is symptomatic of a lot of things we see from Hamilton Council, like they don't consider that this is one small component of the Pan Am Games. that from Toronto 2015's perspective, it should all be about Hamilton. And it's not. We're just a small component in this monster.
Which is what Sam Marula said at the very beginning. I'll give credit where credit is due. Back on Hotline, he said to me, you know, this is Toronto Pan Am Games, not Hamilton's. And he's been proven out on this a little bit. But I'll bring up one more thing in this. You know, you talked about symptomatic of how Hamilton discusses these things or makes decisions. The decision on the velodrome, the way that it was handled, I don't necessarily disagree with the money that they decided they couldn't afford to spend on it, but Dundas is really becoming a mecca for cyclists from all over because of its natural topography, etc. And the more you find out about that, the more it seems as though a velodrome could have been strategic. So did they make a mistake on that front, Lauren?
Laura, what are you doing? Rehashing old wounds again? What are you, Councillor Ferguson?
I'm picking up Ferguson's lead here.
I never read anything on the velodrome that made any business sense in terms of sustainability by users and that kind of stuff.
The argument came too late from the community members as well, in my estimation. It was sort of too far gone before they started to ante.
Hey, there was a lot of big shooters that said they wanted it. I didn't see any checks written.
All right, let's leave that then. Pan Am, hopefully the pain will go away and we'll have nothing good going forward. Yeah. But something else that has got the City Council discussing how to go forward in a reasonable way is the casino debate. I thought we'd covered it ad nauseum already this season, but on Facebook, when we asked, what do you want to talk about on the O Show, there was a whole discussion stream going all last night about it. People are still fired up. So Lauren, give us the facts and the latest intelligence on this, please.
Sure. The casino is this year's Pan Am. The Great Gamble. Today is the first meeting of Council's Casino Subcommittee. Agenda includes request from Police Chief to be heard on the issue of public safety. Committee also considering staff report on how best to get public input. Really, Chief DeCare needs to weigh in?
Well, he wants to on public safety. I think that's totally appropriate. So just as an update, from the latest that I've heard, Council seemed to endorse a staff report suggestion to do community meetings in the different wards, which, you know, collects anecdotal information, gets access to people, lets people talk and discuss, but also to go with a telephone poll to get more statistical coverage of the city. And somebody did say to me on Twitter, you know, can the marginalized really get to these meetings? So I hope that any councillors who set up those meetings make a point of reaching out.
How about can the busy get to these meetings?
Well, it's a good
point.
point.
How about the other side of it, too?
Well, let me put this out. I just got a note here that Councillor Farr is doing one of the casino town halls Thursday night from 7 to 10, and it's in Council Chamber, so it's an accessible space. Is that a good time for busy people? I don't know. But in a short time frame, which is really what we have here, other communities have already done polling about the casino. Hamilton was considering a referendum, but it wasn't going to. It would take 7 months to set up, and that would be well past the OLG timeline. So I think this is not a bad solution to say we're going to put every effort into doing a poll. We're going to do these community meetings, and people can come out and weigh in.
Working in the political sphere, polling is an important tool, and robo-dials, robo-polls, is not considered polling. Who are you speaking to? Are you getting an out-of-towner, a child, someone who doesn't speak English, who pushes 1 instead of 2? Data means nothing unless you can understand the data you are collecting. A phone poll and robo-dialing is a waste of time unless you know who you're talking to and what's the question.
Well, hopefully they'd be qualifying it. I mean, they are talking to an expert in this.
But it already has begun. Whitehead did it, and Farr did it.
But that's not the same thing. And even Farr said, you know, I guess there was some statistical significance, I guess, to what he was saying. I think he told me in a tweet it was scientific, not as it had been reported that it wasn't. But that's not what we're talking about here. I think Council is today discussing a citywide, if you will, marketing poll around the issue, where they're going to have someone prepare the questions, come back to committee, present it, and try to go about it as scientifically and statistically significantly as they can.
But Laura, let me give you an example. Is the question going to be leaning towards, do you want the social ills of a casino in your downtown? Right. Or maybe you can make the question, would you like your taxes to go up? Or would you like a casino? Sure. Like, there's a million ways to do this.
And Lauren, you should, you know, sit down on those committee meetings and make sure they do it fair.
No, I don't want to do that. I elect politicians to make decisions.
And I'm hoping that they can recognize if it's going to be a bias or a leaning question, because we all know that that's totally possible.
They can't even read the OLG website. Right. So what makes you think that they can understand how?
I don't just want to sit here and criticize them before they make the mistake, Lauren. Let's hope that they know what a good poll looks like versus a poll that's skewed. Okay. That being said, though, you brought up the social ills of the casino, and as you know, I support the Flamborough gaming revenue, but I'm not a big fan of one right down in the core. I don't think it's going to help the people, especially in that area. I have since been listening to experts on the casino issue, one particularly from Windsor, and what I didn't understand about it is that it's not necessarily the kind of crime or things that you associate with, let's say, an old school Vegas kind of example. It's the fact that they see, you know, within the first year or so after a casino, they see a lot of foreclosures on mortgages, they see a lot of people losing their jobs, they see a lot of debt go up, the banks deal with people who are having financial crisis, and organizations, believe it or not, people who, you know, didn't realize that they had a gambling problem are using organizational funds, and so it affects the not-for-profit sector. I did not know this. This is factual stuff coming from someone who reviewed what happened with the Windsor Casino. The other issue, Lauren, is the proximity. I know you say, well, it'll bring new money into Hamilton and new jobs. The jobs I agree with, but the new money, really? If there's that many casinos popping up around the province, isn't it just going to be recycling Hamilton money that we can't afford to recycle in that way?
No, it won't be, because 60 cents on every dollar left behind in Brantford is not from Brantford. And if you check out,
before we have so many casinos. Right now, Brantford's the only game around.
No, I understand that.
Right.
So Hamiltonians are at present going to Niagara and going to Brantford. Wouldn't it make more sense for those Hamilton dollars to stay in Hamilton so that we can create the tax base and the jobs?
But it's not new. It's not like a net gain in terms of revenue if that's all that's happening. If it's not a tourist attraction, but just people going in and gambling money.
But okay, there was a letter to the editor in the Spectator from a nurse from Brantford.
I saw that.
Who went on and on. So let me great letter, except one giant point is missing. She lives in Hamilton and is a nurse in Brantford. Well, I got news for you. I'm a gambler in Hamilton who can gamble in Brantford. Like, there is no borders here. It's as if we have forgotten that there's online gaming. Other communities have casinos, bingo halls.
Lauren, her point was that some of what they saw in that late night ER was directly a result of the casino.
We have that anyways in this city.
So you want to add to
have
that? Come on, that's why the police chief maybe wants to talk to the committee. Okay, we got to leave this. We'll fight about the casino more in the future, I guarantee it. Okay, and next topic that we want to get to, though, is LRT. Quickly on this, last week we talked about the fact that the Bay Observer had a story of how the mayor at the AMO conference found out, you know, just how much other municipalities have to pay for their LRT in addition to any money they get from Metrolinx. So we talked about that a little bit, Dave Shuttleworth and I, last week. But since there was an article done in the Community News, there was an interview with Bill Kelly this morning. Let's get the facts on this, Lauren. What's the latest?
Sure, only the facts. Go slow. Proponents of light rail transit have been concerned about the city's mixed messaging about pursuing provincial funding. Today, Mayor Bertina stated, quote, "The priority is rapid transit. Where LRT fits into that is what I want to know," end quote. Laura, if I may, this is simple. We should have a referendum on it. But no. Only if Andrea Horvath thinks we should. Then we should.
Here's a couple points on this. One is, I think last week I said something similar to what the mayor said in that maybe I was a little bit more declarative in terms of I think LRT is the right thing for our community going forward, but we do need to fully understand the cost-benefit analysis of it. And there is a report that is coming back to council from staff in a little while. Whether there's a cost-benefit analysis in that report, I don't know. But the mayor was saying we need more facts on LRT. It did sound, though, one thing that really caught me, Lauren, and it's the politics of it, is that, you know, he was pretty defensive when he said, well, you know, when I was sitting, Bill Kelly said, well, weren't there people who thought that you just pushed for all day go when you had the meeting with the Premier or the opportunity to lobby for Hamilton? And he said, well, I had a clear directive on go from council. On LRT, council hasn't told me what to do. And he sounded frustrated. And I thought to myself, has the council-mayor dynamic that's been created over the last few years, has it inhibited the mayor from doing what a mayor should be able to do? And, you know, it just sounded like it was a passing of the buck back and forth, and I don't know if that's going to help our community.
The same 30 people that blog and write every letter to the editor and are on the Hamiltonian and are all over Facebook and Twitter on issues are all holding hands in agreement on LRT, which gives the community at large, in terms of people like us who are aware of their What I'm suggesting here is there is a false sense of everybody's on side for LRT. And just because the urbanists have all agreed does not mean that council has agreed.
It's not just all the urbanists. Certainly the business community, a number of people like the idea of those nodes. They see it as putting the city forward. It ups our
I don't
class
think the Dundas Chamber of Commerce is really cheering for it.
Well, I think people want to see the real cost, but you know, in terms of vision, why not light rail transit? Hamilton is becoming and developing as a city. Our downtown is growing and rejuvenating. It's nice to know that we're going to look forward to improving our transit and, you know, making the statement that LRT does. Okay, let me do a quick thank you to some of the people who helped make this show, and then we'll get into a topic I know you can't wait to talk about, which is the airport. I want to say a quick thank you to Pennington's. They outfit me with jewelry and clothing for the show here. You should get a clothing contra, Lauren. And and also Madison Avenue for
You can cut my hair too.
Yeah, see, you really want to get in there.
That's
for
true.
Sure. I'd like our team writers. What's that? Okay, our theme writer. Oh yes, that's right. We thanked him when that new theme aired off the top. I love the start of the show now, and that was done by a gentleman who put that together for us, and I think we've got his name up there in the credits. We thank Rob again. He volunteered to do it. It's an awesome song. We love it. Thanks again. Okay, let's get into this topic. We're kind of tongue-in-cheek calling it aerotrocity here because, as you know, the aerotropolis has been a term that's been coined in kind of a negative light, I think, about the airport employment lands. And certainly the city has another name for that, and we'll get to that in a second. But a big study was done. The results not terribly positive. So, Lauren, give us the facts.
Sure. Just the facts on aerotrocity. 82% of 349 residents surveyed by the Hamilton Civic League does not support the city's plan to rezone thousands of acres of farmland to industrial. The matter originally came before city planning in 2005. City refers to the area as Airport Employment Growth District. Critics call it Aerotropolis.
Gee, which one is more catchy?
I think Aerotropolis sounds awesome and huge.
It sounds like space.
Yeah.
I know. I never thought it was particularly negative, but hey, there you go. Okay, so on this, that's a pretty big survey. A lot of effort that the Civic League did going to those houses, but of course they're right on the periphery, on the very affected areas. And so,
do we know that? Is that
yeah,
who they spoke to?
As I understand it, I read that in the mayor's response to the Hamiltonians' question on it about that was sort of the sample around. But there's also been a press release that's been posted out there with more details, so don't 100% quote me on that, but as I understand it, they did people in the proximity of the lands, okay? It wasn't just a general sample of broader Hamilton. And they spoke to these, and there's a pretty high number, talking about polling, that aren't very supportive of what the city is planning to do. Now, is that a lack of communication from the city on this, Lauren? Is it the fact that a public meeting way back in the day that was held ended badly and seemed to be rushed? Do citizens feel like they haven't been heard, or is it just a bad plan?
I think this is an issue that has all kinds of people in different camps against it for different reasons. That if Aerotropolis would be butting up against your home, you've got an issue of your personal property value. That's very different from the argument of we shouldn't be taking agricultural lands away when we've got all our brownfields to redevelop. And I think there's some real harm when the community at large is in too many different segments fighting the same battle, from using different weapons and attacking from different ways. It never seems to work out.
Well, and also there's the fact that there isn't, I believe there's still some available land in the current parcel that's available. So I support the fact that an airport, I mean, like the Glanbrook, you remember when they were setting up the Glanbrook, I forget the name of it, but off the
business park,
yeah, the business park.
Yeah.
You know, it is done well. So I don't ever want to just say no, don't do development for the sake of not doing it, because we have to look at it. We're growing as a city, and we have to see what makes sense. But I agree with you on this one. There are so many camps that have strong arguments against it that it is certainly something that the city has to approach very carefully, and we'll keep you apprised of this. But thanks to the Civic League for doing that study. You know, this is how we find out what people think, and that's of course important to all of this. Let's do a quick way to go. What do we think about what went well this past week? Lauren, sir, I believe you're up first.
I hope so. No?
No, it's me.
It is you.
Rockton Fair, a world-class attraction right here in Hamilton since 1852. You know, if we were a city in the U.S., we would have that on huge signs when you drive into the city, but alas, that's one of my complaints.
It's anyway, on huge signs in Rockton.
Yeah, but, well, yeah, that's, you know, part of Hamilton. Way to go, Rockton Fair. You rock.
The Lions Lair that took place last weekend, I want to congratulate the winners, the various winners, the organizers, all the participants. What a wonderful event. Way to go.
Awesome. And way to go, the Good Shepherd Center and all the volunteers, not just there, but elsewhere, who were feeding others this Thanksgiving. I was enjoying feast with my family, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate people who go and help others they don't even know. I think it's amazing.
Very good.
Way to go.
Well, the tragically hip at Iverwin, way to go to those who braved the cold. I think it was single digits. And I hope this isn't an issue of false hope. I think that as we're saying goodnight to that old stadium, it was pretty nifty to actually have a pretty significant outdoor concert.
Is it a good hip concert? Because I've been to like 5 of them.
You know what? If this was 1986 and I was at the Toucan in Kingston, I'd let you know, but I've moved past, so way to go nonetheless.
Okay, thanks. I didn't expect that response.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Lauren and everybody. And just as a quick update, check out the Opinionators. They're on Thursday night, and they've always got some great discussion about provincial issues. And if you want to check out a Laracast, I recommend PJ Mercanti. I talked to him months ago, but he was talking about some vision for downtown with Carmen's. And I think if you listen to it now that they have the operation of the convention center, you'll be pretty fascinated. So go to laracast.com and hear what PJ had to say about plans for downtown. Also, if you want to get this SOS shirt, $10, go to History and Heritage this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Graham Crawford will have one for you to support the girls of Linwood Charlton. Thanks so much for watching the O Show. Here's the tweet of the week, and have a good one.